What is good, you guys? It's Lifestyle from lifestyledude.com, and today we're going to talk about the most common question I ever get asked probably once a day, and it is it worth it to mix your beats? And you already know my answer to this question. Hell no, you don't need to mix your beats. No, I'm just playing. Yes, of course, to me, it is super worth it. It's one of the most important things, and I'm going to explain why. It might be me being a little biased since I was engineering a lot when I first started, or I have a lot of information on while I was engineering with rappers on behind the scenes kind of why it was and what I learned of why it's so important when a rapper brings a good mix to the studio for the engineer. So let's jump into it. I'm going to give you guys just a bunch of random bullet points and my opinions on it. You can kind of navigate through that and see if you agree with me on these or not. So I kind of have some bullets listed and I'm just going to dive straight into them. All right, so number one, honestly, is the easiest one. We'll go more advanced, but let's just start at number one. Everybody likes a good mix. Everyone likes when stuff sounds good and it's mixed well. We like punchy low end, we like crispy high end, we like good vocals, we like a kick that hits, and we just overall enjoy nice mixes, right? So besides that fact, you're gonna really want to hear like the perks and the good that comes from having your beats mixed. So let's just dive straight into all of those. Number one, I think is the most important, is many of your customers, many of the rappers or singers that come to buy your beats, a lot of them are going to buy an MP3 or a wave, right? And those are going to be consolidated files, 2-track files, no track outs to adjust. And if these are your highest selling ones, and a lot of people buy MP3s and waves, they're not going to be able to control the mix afterwards, right? Because everything is just on a 2-track. So yeah, they can go add some EQ, transient shaping, compression, whatever it may be, but they can't take the kick and turn it up. They can't take the snare, turn it down. They can't take the 808 and change how it sounds and mold it because everything is on a 2-track, right? So when your customers come by and they purchase an MP3 or a wave license, it's a 2-track that they're going to record over. And if the mix is already really, really bad, there's not much you could do to save it. If you have a very good mastering engineer, they can probably make it sound decent. But if it's what I always learned when I came up was you can't polish a turd with mixing, meaning that you can't take something that is literal and turn it into something that's good. So having a decent mix or a good mix from the beginning, especially on those 2-tracks that artists buy, is going to make the end game and the overall mix at the end sound good, since they're going to be recording their vocal just over that 2-track if they don't get the track outs. Now, let's be honest, engineers can't do much with the 2-track beat. There's a lot of things you could do when you're obviously mixing a vocal to a 2-track, and a lot of great songs and mixes have come from that. But the original mix was probably pretty good in the first place, so maybe they just had to do some transient shaping to it to get the vocal to kind of sound like it was mixed in with it behind the snare or whatever it may be, and they do some cleanup EQ. But if they have access to the track outs, they can get a way better mix because they can mix everything as one. The vocals, everything is in the session, and they can pull on any fader and really get a groove and a mix going as if it was all in the same session from the beginning, instead of just having to mix it over a 2-track, which like I said, a lot of good mixes have come over 2-tracks. But if your mix is terrible and the artist brings that 2-track to the studio, myself, when I used to engineer a lot, I used to get a lot of beats that artists would bring in, and the mix was so bad that there was only so much I could do to it. And then I would show them the song and the vocal sounded good, but the beat just maybe wasn't sounding really good. And I'd have to explain to them that you're either going to have to buy the track outs or maybe try to hit up the producer and see what you guys can negotiate, because with just this 2-track, the mix is not good, and it's so bad that the song is only going to be able to be mixed so well with your vocal over a 2-track. Now let's talk about what happens when you do mix your beat and it's a good mix and someone buys, let's say, an MP3 or wave. And I'm always saying that because if they buy the track outs, then they can actually have access to the individual files. But if they're just buying the MP3 or wave, they can be inspired to match your mix. And what I mean by that is when they bring in a very well mixed 2-track to the studio, the engineer is going to actually enjoy it, right? He's going to be recording the vocals, and you never know if they're going to be more inspired to match the mix. Let's say you bring in something that's just trash, right? The mix is really, really bad, and the engineer's kind of sitting there, and it kind of depends on the engineer. I would never do this, but they might sit there and be like, you know what? I mean, the mix on the beat already sounds bad, so I'm not really going to try my hardest to get this vocal to sound good because it already sounds terrible. Now, that's a really bad example, and I hope that doesn't happen. But just imagine that that's a possibility that it'll happen. And if you can inspire them to match your mix, it's a really good mix. There's headroom. It's sounding good, and they only have the 2-track to mess with. There's better opportunity for the vocal to sound like it's blending better with the song, and you have a better outcome of the actual song that the rapper and you put together because they bought your beat. beat, right? And a better outcome of the song is good for your name if your name's on it, and as well as the rapper. It just sounds better, it sounds more professional, and there's more chances for that song to do well with a good mix, right? Now let's kind of dive more into the customer part of it. Good mixes attract more customers, and let's be honest, if your mix hits, and you can ask any rapper, I hit up a few rappers, working with so many artists throughout the time and mixing, even mixing online, artists like good mixed beats. When they turn your beat on, let's say they go on YouTube and they play a bunch of beats, if yours is just knocking right, they wanted something that was just hitting really hard, right? They just listened to the new Tory album and they're just like, man, these beats hit so aggressively hard, and then they come across your beats and the mixes aren't good. The mixes sound bad, the mixes are muddy, the low end just isn't doing what it seems like it needed to do for them, and they're just like, man, and they go on to the next one. And the next beat they come across, right, is like, okay, they like the beat, it might not be the best beat, but the mix really speaks to them and it just hits the way they want it to, and it's aggressive. So they're like, yo, I really like how this beat sounds, and it's not a bad beat, I enjoy it, but it just has so much aggression to it and it hits so hard that it fits the tone and the vibe that I want to go for my song. And you'd be surprised how many times I've had people buy beats and then they'll come back and just say that they really enjoyed the mix, or they had the beat playing and it was between two beats on my site, but one just was mixed differently and it just spoke to them, and they ended up buying that one instead of the other one that they originally wanted. And then of course you're always going to have better outcomes with the song, right? Better mix, they're going to have the vocal over, it's going to be easier to blend the two unless they buy the track outs, and it's just an easy experience. Now let's talk about two other really cool things that maybe you didn't think of when you're learning to mix your beats and you're getting really good at it. If you practice enough and you start to get very good mixes, you have now another service under your belt. Now you know how to mix beats, right? So if you get very good at it and you can show that you're good at it and you have proof and the track record of it and nice beats for examples of the mixes that you've done, now you can offer that service to other producers, and you can have that service as something that can bring you in another source of revenue, right? Another stream of revenue income is going to be mixing beats, because now you know how to get your beat mixes to sound good. They always sound good. You understand the fundamentals of mixing if you really take it serious, and now you can have that service under your belt. And I will tell you, for me, this is something I offer, and it's a great extra source of income for my business. There's so many things you could do with this. You can start to, like I said, create services for mixing. One day you could start to do tutorials or something, or however you want to take it. But once you have more skills under your belt, the better it is for your business, the better it is for your product, the better it is for your sales. Just imagine the three things I just named. More customers will be attracted to your beats, right? You have better outcome of the songs that you're doing. You have more services you can add because now you know how to mix. And then you can even have the knowledge to share with people, and you could start doing Instagram videos or YouTube videos, whatever it may be. There's so many things that come that are positive from learning how to truly mix your beats and really get a good beat mix. And then lastly, I just want to speak about this one. You'll have more confidence in showing your beats to people. And honestly, this is probably one of the biggest ones. And let's be real, when I first started, I thought my beat mixes were really good. I spoke about this before. I was like 16, 17. I had done my first beat mix. I thought it sounded so dope. You know, I was like, dang, this thing hits. And I went into my friend's car because he had come over that day. He had two subs in the back of his car, subwoofers. And I played my beat, and I thought it was hitting so hard. And I didn't think that obviously he has two subs, so anything's going to have bass, right? So I'm sitting there like, man, I did it. This is like my first mix. I went crazy. This thing slaps. His doors are rattling. And then he played a song off Oxymoron at the time when it had come out. And Schoolboy Q's song came in, and I immediately realized that mine sounded like trash. I was low-key embarrassed because he knew what his car sounded like, but I didn't. So anything off the first listen, I was like, oh, dang, this is crazy. Listen to how much bass that is. Until I heard a professional mix come in, and I was like, all right, let me just sit down. Let me go back inside. And from that day forward, obviously, I learned reference mixing and stuff like that, you know, but not to get too far into that. But just to say, I was very unconfident in ever playing another beat in his car at that time, because I was just like, dang, like, he didn't do it on purpose. Maybe he did, but it was just like, man, it was such an awkward experience to go from thinking it might sound good to hearing it and someone else being in the car. And it's just those moments where you wish you were by yourself, so you could have just been like, oh, okay, cool, no one heard that. But you know, you got to do what you got to do, and it did help out. So all I'm saying is that when you have better mixes, you're going to be more confident in showing your product to people. You can stand behind it more, right? Let's say you're in a room and you go into a studio. That's another really big thing. If you ever get in a studio session and they say play some of your beats and your beats aren't mixed, it's going to be bad. It's going to be, it's not going to work well, because you go to play it and the piano's louder than the kick and the 808's quiet, and it's just all meshing in the low end, and so many things are just canceling over each other, and it's just muddy, and it's just not appealing. Even a decent mix will be better, and it could literally take your chance of them saying, let's use that beat instead of something else. And let's say that they want to use that beat and they're like, all right, do you have the track outs to it? And you don't. You only had like, an MP3 or a wave, and they're just like, well, that sucks. For right now, we're just going to keep moving, because they wanted to have something that sounded decent while they were recording and something, or maybe they wanted to put that song out and they didn't care about the track outs. They just wanted a decent mixed, 2-track at the time. You never know. So just learning to have your beats mixed and having your beats mixed, I think, is completely and totally worth it. I'd name so many things they could do for your business to start other side streams of revenue, show, more confidence in it, and get more beat customers, because they're confident when they spend $40 with you that they're going to get that beat mix that was on your site, and it's going to sound good. It's not going to sound bad when they go to record to it, right? If they're not going to get the track outs. And even if they are going to get the track outs, the mix of the track outs is still good. Make sure to leave headroom on any files that go to your customers. That is super important. And that's really just my take on this. And let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. But I will tell you, when I learned it, there were so many things that did positive for my business. And this was 6 years ago, right? But I was already engineering. But I will tell you, you never know what can come if you're just making beats and you just at least learn to mix your beats. How many more things that can open it, how many more doors that can open for you as a producer. So if you guys did like this video, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site, lifestyledidit.com, for everything else. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.